everyone, I'm Alexia, founder and owner of Alexia Academic Consulting and your favorite college admissions coach. I specialize in ACT, SAT, and PSAT prep, in addition to the Common App and Ivy League interviews. And I actually, not to toot my own horn, but I have a 97% success rate at getting my clients into the Ivy League and top 20 universities. Thanks for watching this video, and make sure to like and subscribe. And if you use code Alexia at checkout, then you can get $200 off your total purchase. Let's begin. Hi. So today's topic is going to be how to study for the ACT, the SAT, and the PSAT. I have been doing what I do for 7 years, and I've been a company for 6 years. And there are a lot of mistakes that I see students commonly make when studying for the ACT, the SAT, and the PSAT. And there's a lot of things that you can save yourself a lot of time, money, and just self-esteem on. So that's why I'm here today, is to just kind of give you some of my tips. So let's start with tip 1. You cannot trick a test, so get that out of your mind. And if you are approaching a prep company and they say, we'll teach you tricks, we'll teach you this, then save your money, because they don't know what the F they are talking about. I have students all the time, or even parents that come to me and they say, okay, his test is in a couple of weeks, just teach him a few tricks so that way, he can do well. And I tell them, bye. That's just not what I do. You either know your stuff or you don't. So if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail, and you're going to get the score that you deserve. So get that out of your head to trick a test. The ACT and the SAT are, and standardized tests in general, the purpose of them is to test you on everything that you should know thus far up to this point. If you are trying to trick this test, then because you don't want to learn the material. There are other reasons why sometimes people might not get the scores, and we'll go through that. But if it's for the reason of not wanting to do the work, then that's just a terrible reason. Just learn your stuff, and then it's going to help make things so much easier for you in your classes, as well as in the future in college, because I can guarantee you 100% of what you're being tested on, you will see repeatedly your freshman and your sophomore year in college in your core gen ed classes. So just learn it now, so that way you're not struggling then, and you can go have fun with your friends unsupervised without your parents around. So just, if that's gotta be your motivation, then think about it like that. The next thing is, you should really, let's backtrack to looking at the different types of sections and how you should prepare for each section of the test. So thinking about the writing and the English section that is on both tests, I think the prep is the same for both. My biggest advice is to read the question types and really master those. For instance, with the English section, I always tell my clients that I can solve through a whole English test on either the ACT or the SAT, and I can get every single question right in under 15 minutes. And I don't even really read the passage. I primarily am looking at the question types. So like, for instance, let's talk about a punctuation question. And in my courses, I dive into teaching you guys all the question types. A common punctuation question, you're going to see they might have all the wording the same, but then your answers, they'll just be changing where the punctuation is at, and you might see one has a period, the other has a comma with a conjunction. The conjunction's always and, the other answer is a semicolon, and then the last answer is always a comma. So that's a routine way that they position their answers. So when you start looking at commonalities in the test, and you just really know the test inside and out, it's impossible to get a question wrong. So with the writing, make sure you know your rules, make sure that you understand the question types. I've identified 17 question types, and I actually have a course. It's the Mastering the Reading and Writing for the SAT, ACT, at alexiaacademicconsulting.com if you're interested. I solved several tests throughout that, as well as break down every single rule and what to look for in the answers. And who knows, maybe I'll put up a video on here. The next thing is with math, practice makes perfect. There is no way around the math. You cannot cheat the math section. You cannot say that if I just keep answering C, I got to get them all right. And it's phony baloney if you think that towards the end of the test, the last 15 questions are going to be the hardest. I think that, you know, sometimes those are the easiest questions. For instance, it's really common that question 60 on the ACT is always, yes, I have the questions memorized, that's how good I am, is normally a law of cosines question. They always give you the formula for that. You're solving for one angle. That can take you literally under 10 seconds, and you just look at it. So like everything that like you feel like you're hearing from your friends, or oh, choose C, or the last 15 questions, don't even worry about those, they're so hard. No, that's nothing. If you prepare for your math, then there is no way you can fail. Let's take it back to when I used to study for the MCAT, which is the test you take to get into medical school. I, at the time, struggled with organic chemistry. Now I'm a pro and I'm actually coming out with an organic chemistry book. But when I used to struggle, what I found helpful was I would go on YouTube, and you know, you can use this channel for your YouTube reference for your prep. But I would go on YouTube and I found this guy called the Organic Chemistry Tutor. And he had every single topic that you could think of that would be tested on the MCAT. And what I did was I would watch one of his videos on whatever topic I got wrong after I did a practice test for the day. And then he did a lot of examples throughout his video. The first example I would always watch all the way through, write in my notebook, and then he would do a practice question following up that, like several practice questions. So then what I would do is I would play the video so that way he could say the question. I'd pause the video, and then I'd have my little whiteboard in front of me, and I would try to solve through every single step, even if I knew that I knew the steps in my mind. Clearly, if I'm watching the video or if I'm doing any type of tutoring, I am not a genius, so I don't believe in skipping steps even when I know them. It's even just like reiterating that muscle memory. So keep that in mind. Always write down everything. I always tell my clients to do that. And when I was solving these questions, if I got the question right, then I'd be like, okay, yay, I know this, I'll move on to the next question. If I got the question wrong, then I would rewrite out the entire question in my notebook, and I would watch that same question twice, and then I would write out all of his steps in my notebook. And the next time I saw that question, I never got it wrong. So yes, those are very tedious steps, but you honestly get out of something what you put into it. And while you're trying to take the easy way out, your competition ain't doing that. They are studying, they are learning that material. You have to tell yourself this. It is a competitive world in the world of college admissions. And if you're not putting in the work, you deserve to get overlooked. So the next thing is my advice for the reading. So with reading, I always tell students that the best way to improve your reading score is to read more. I'm going to use another MCAT example because when I used to struggle with verbal reasoning in the early days, and that's the reading, it's like your reading section, but for the MCAT. It's like ACT, SAT reading on steroids because it's awful. And the passages are super dense. And that used to be a struggle of mine. But then what I did is the reading section was an hour and a half long. So don't complain about your 35-minute ACT reading section. It gets worse, especially most of my clients are pre-med. So it gets worse. But so with the reading section, I knew it was an hour and a half, so I did 30 days of straight reading tests. I am a very routine person. I think that routines help you succeed academically. So every single day after I ate breakfast, I would set an alarm for an hour and a half, turn off my phones and stuff, and I would do one full length a day. And then I'd have a question log where I would just document like my scores and any questions I missed. I didn't constantly go back over the questions, but after I saw through everything, I looked at why I got it wrong, what types of questions it was. And that helped me know that, like, okay, so I'm getting this question wrong for this reason. I'm getting the same type of question wrong. And if you guys do a question log, you'll actually notice those same patterns in yourself, that you're getting the exact same types of questions wrong. And that's actually a good thing, because If you get the same types of question wrong, then you just have one concept to memorize, one concept to learn. And let's say you take a practice test and you're like, I missed so many things, I don't know what to do. But let's say one of the things you missed was like the concept on non-essential, essential information in the English, and you had 10 questions you got wrong on that one concept, but you only walked away learning from your practice test this one concept. You probably just bumped up your diagnostic by like 5, 6, 7 points. I see it all the time. So be patient with yourself. It's all about the baby steps. And as long as you're better when you look in the mirror than the person you were yesterday, it doesn't matter that you don't know everything. Everyone doesn't know everything. And also don't compare yourself to others. That will, if you got a friend that's over here saying they did this, they did that, they're doing this, or they didn't even have to study, kudos to them. Who cares? Run your own race. Your friends are not going to be taking your test with you. Your friends will not. You probably won't even talk to them in college, honestly. You're gonna make new friends, they'll be better. So run your own race, study at your own pace. If you have a learning disability, don't be ashamed to get those accommodations. Those accommodations are great accommodations. Imagine being able to take your test over a 2-week time span, or getting double time, or whatever else you need to succeed. It is about you. It is about doing what is best for you. You are paying the money, you are investing in your future. Do what is best for you. So that's the other thing, is put in for those accommodations and put in for them early. If you know you have a learning disability, then instantly when you say you want to take the ACT, you need to put in for them. It can sometimes take months to get approved if they get approved, and you have to you're not allowed to put in for accommodations until you have one test on file, like a test that's been registered for and paid for, before they can even approve it. So when you get serious, that needs to be thing one that you do. If you suspect that you have a learning disability, such as ADHD or dyslexia, and you haven't gotten tested for it, then I would personally recommend getting tested for it, because it can make a giant difference in your academics as well as your self-esteem, especially if you've been struggling. I feel like in education, we've always been made to believe like, you have to get this on this timeline at this point and be like this right now, perfect all the time, and then go on to the next grade. And that's not the case. Everyone learns at their own pace, and everyone is unique, just like how I look this way, you look that way. I also have a certain type of way I learn. You have a certain type of way you learn. Go at your own pace, run your own race. And studying, if you know that you are someone, you also have to think about pacing yourself. Because if you know that you're someone who does not like to feel rushed, it can make you anxious if you're overwhelmed with a lot of work at once in a short period of time, and you do not operate and you're going to be having a panic attack and crying, then what you need to do is schedule your test further out. It's okay to take like 6 months to study. It's about consistency, not perfection. So if you want to take 6 months to study and you put on your calendar every Saturday for 2 hours, I'm going to study, or I'm going to have a session with Alexia, then you just show up. It'll all add up over 6 months. You'll feel confident and you'll see yourself improving during this time. And who knows, you might even be like, you know what, I can amp this up. I'm like in a flow, I'll add on another day, and now you're pushing your test date up. So just be realistic with your lifestyle, and your prep should not take over your life. I get certain students who come to me and they're like, okay, I gotta study 10 hours a day, I gotta solve 200 questions per day, and then I'll get a perfect score. No, there is no recipe for a perfect score. No one is perfect, and a lot of times those students tend to clam up on test day, and they do substantially worse because they put this amount of pressure on them. So testing and studying for a test, and just really with anything in life, is about time management, which that's a different video. That's the next video, so make sure you like this one and then also watch the next one. But really with time management, you just want to make sure that you're making your like daily task fit into your lifestyle. So for instance, with me, in the morning, I like to respond to emails, but also I like to listen to some morning motivation, law of attraction, and I know I gotta work out. So a lot of times I'm doing all three at once, on the treadmill with the headphones, and just doing that. So prioritize it with your life. If you know that you are a morning studier instead of an evening studier and your attention span's better then plan it so that way you only have mornings. Or if you know that it's your busy sporting season for school and you can't give as much, then maybe space your test out. So just incorporate it with your lifestyle. And also, it's about quality over quantity. You can have, the more you study for a standardized test does not mean the higher your test scores will be. Yes, I said that. I actually notice when students study about 15 to 30 minutes a day and they're reviewing their notes and it's uninterrupted time, even if they do that like once or twice a day, that's substantially better than a 2-hour sitting, because you're going to forget what you learned in like 30 minutes. And, you know, just space yourself out. Okay, so the next thing is the science section of the ACT. Whenever you come across the science section of the ACT, I think the best way to study is to really work on your data analysis, your graph interpretations. It's very common that a lot of the questions that they ask you, they are just like giving you graphs, and a lot of times the points aren't on there and they're wanting you to estimate between the two. So just work on like looking at tables. I think another way to study for the science is to go through your science background knowledge, because for 2 reasons. And Alexia Academic Consulting actually has a Mastering Science for the ACT course, which tells you all the background knowledge you need to know, as well as how to interpret all the graphs. But with the background knowledge, it's important for 2 reasons. The first is because it helps you understand the passage you are reading. If you don't know what half the words mean, you're probably going to be struggling through it. And secondly, I think understanding your science background knowledge is important, because on your ACT, 4 to 6 of your science questions are going to come exclusively from background knowledge. You don't know what they are, so I just always have this motto of know everything, prepare for the worst, and you'll always fly and succeed. Okay, so the next thing is going to be, when you're taking your practice tests, to really maximize your studying, I am a fan of taking tests at 8 a.m. on a Saturday and doing it all in one sitting at whatever your time accommodations allow for. The reason why is because you want to try to stimulate your test day environment as much as possible, so that way when you are taking your test, you know what to expect. You have done this, like you brush your teeth every day. I hope you brush your teeth every day. Teenagers can be a little gross, but you want to be able to expect everything. You want to be able to anticipate everything. If you are taking tests untimed here, but even if you're like, oh, I'll just do a section, I'll do a math section today timed, a reading section tomorrow timed, and you think you're doing great, you're still doing bad. The reason why that is bad is because let's say it's test day and you've only done your sections individually timed randomly once a day, and you've never sat through an actual full length. Then you haven't built up your stamina yet. So by the time you get to the reading section, you're probably not reading as well as you normally would, because the reading might have been what you studied first and you were always like super perky, and then now you're feeling a little dead inside. And then let's not even get started on what happens at the science when you're tired from the reading. The science you've just given up on. So do all your studying in one sitting. If you're taking a 4-hour practice test, study in those increments. Back to the MCAT, because that was the most recent standardized test I have taken. When I studied, the MCAT is about an 8-hour long test. I would do 2 study blocks a day of 8-hour increments. So I would have a morning block where I like woke up at 5 a.m. and would just go 8 hours straight, and then I'd take a break, go work out. I was training for Miss United States at the time, which, as we see, yes, perfect score on my MCAT, and became Miss United States and interviewed for med school. Girl had it going on. So when you are when you're, where was I at? Got distracted. That happens a lot. But yeah, so I would have 2 8-hour blocks, and then I would have my phone always off during that time. And during the 8-hour blocks, okay, so the next thing is focus on your weaknesses when you're studying. You do not want to focus on what you know. I see this with students all the time where they don't want to do questions that they don't know, which I don't understand. You're paying me to teach you what you don't know, not make you feel good about yourself and have you constantly doing what you do know. Doing constant questions that you know does nothing for you. Why not spend that time learning what you don't know and then just maximizing what you do know? I think that's a better investment. And my next piece of advice is to review. Review. Make flashcards for whatever you don't know. Have one notebook with everything in it. When you're studying for standardized tests, I think it's a no-brainer if you're a paper and pencil person to have a multi-subject notebook and label it with each subject. Always have your stuff organized. Have question logs. Have answer explanations written. If you're taking tutoring sessions, you should be asking the questions. You're paying to be there. Don't feel shy. Our job is to teach. How I review is I have like my own method of reviewing. It's a little psychotic, but I will have like a stack of note cards or my notebook or wherever I'm looking at my notes from. And I'm a very visual learner, so I have a lot of stuff memorized. And also in my sessions, if you've ever had a session with me, I have a really good flow of session, and it sounds like I'm reading from a book, but I'm not. I actually just have everything memorized because I created it. So when I study, I try to memorize everything as if I'm closing my eyes and I'm imagining how it appeared on the card. And I recite in my mind every single thing that I know from that card. And then what I'll do is I'll open my eyes and I check myself, and let's say I'm missing one thing. And then I will go back to the beginning of whatever stack I had and start at the beginning doing that same thing, all the cards. So yeah, a lot of cards repeat. But when I'm done studying and every single test day, I always feel confident and I always dominate, and I never have any issues retaining information. I tend to remember every single thing that I kind of do, and yeah, so I recommend that for you guys. The next thing is, do not cram studying for your ACT, your SAT, or the PSAT into 1 week or really close to your test. I think a reasonable time is to give yourself a month and a half. A month and a half, and have like yourself a schedule, have yourself a game plan. This is the most important test of your life. This is where it's at. This is all of high school together. This is where you're laying your cards out on the table. This is your last opportunity, well, one of the last opportunities to show your dream school, to show your future, to show your dreams, that you care, that you're showing up for you. Yes, you know, since COVID, we've had this situation where schools are test optional. Yes, I am air quoting that test optional. Y'all better take those tests. They are not test optional. Because for several reasons, even if your school's saying it, I view it as, again, this is the most important decision of your life. Why not have every box checked? Why leave one stone unturned? Why make it that easy for your competition to beat you? And yes, I am, you know, I'm giving you guys some of my like pageant warfare tips, you know, in terms of college admissions, because it's the same concept. If I'm looking at a college application, and let's say student A and student B, we'll call you Amy and we'll call you Bob. Amy and Bob, or no, I want to do same gender. Okay, Amy and Blair. They are both coming, and I'm looking at their application for Vanderbilt. I'm going to look and I see, okay, they are both same ethnicity. They did the exact same sports. They have the exact same GPA. On paper, they look identical. There's no diverse story here. They look identical. What's the difference? Amy took her ACT. That's ACT Amy. Amy has this one extra indicator that is a 34 on her ACT. Amy wasn't scared to take the test. So now I triple trust Amy more so than I trust Blair. How do I know that Blair didn't go to a school that, you know, was pass fail, or that she had the easier teachers? People who are against standardized tests, I know that there are some complaints, but one reason why I do like them is because this is the one test where every single person in the country is equal. This is the one test where it doesn't matter if you went to the best private school or if you went to the worst public school. You are taking the exact same questions, everything is finally a fair playing field. So, and you know, that's my opinion. Some people feel differently about it, but to each their own. So those are my study tips for today. I hope you guys like try some of them. I hope they help you. If you want a customized study plan or help preparing for your ACT, SAT, or PSAT, don't hesitate to reach out. My email is alexiaacademicconsulting@gmail.com, or you can visit me at alexiaacademicconsulting.com or on my Instagram at Alexia Eats and Travels or at Alexia Academic Consulting. Thank you.